Hi guys, today we're going to look at social ability, and next week we're going to look at social development. This is kind of to wrap up our ideas about socialization, because social ability and social development are hopefully the byproducts, or what we get at the end when we are appropriately socialized within our community. So there are some ideas about self-regulation, aggression, and altruism, and then pro-social and anti-social behavior that I'd like you guys to know about, because hopefully the end of, or during a socialization process, we would have some of these characteristics. I've also highlighted altruism because that is what's going to be in your online assignment this week. So once again, the child's in the middle, so their behavior, their gender role, their self-esteem, how they feel about themselves are all a product of their socialization. So their microsystem, their meso, their exo, their macro, and their chronosystem all contribute to a child and how they grow up. So that's just what we've been looking at this whole semester. Self-regulation, which is really important. We often call this self-control. This is the ability to control your own impulses, to have a filter. You know, those people who never have a filter and they just say whatever pops into their mind. Be able to control your own behavior, like, I really want all of those marshmallows, but I can't have them. Or in my case, I have a bunch of M&Ms in my office because that's how I teach probability when I do like statistics. And so I have a gigantic thing of individual M&Ms that I get at Smart and Final. And I teach probability like that, but they're in my office. And now that I'm working at home, it's been really difficult to like see a bunch of M&Ms and then not want to eat them. I have to regulate my own behavior, which is really difficult. And then we're regulating our emotions. That means that you feel your emotions, you're allowed to have your emotions, but if you're angry, you don't go out and you punch somebody in the face. So self-regulation is important. Not everybody can have this. Some people have better self-regulation than others. Adults are still working on self-regulation. I'm still working on not eating all of those M&Ms. I'm working on when I get angry at my husband, not picking a fight with him over something silly when I'm really angry about something else. So self-regulation is something we're always working on as humans. The ability to delay gratification is really important. So I want those M&Ms now at 9 o'clock in the morning, but maybe I will just have them on Friday as like a dessert after my long week of online teaching is done. Because I want to sustain my attention on recording these videos for you guys, because it's important for you to online learn, and it's important for me to get a paycheck for teaching. The ability to plan and self-monitor a goal-directed activity. So I need to plan and I need to self-monitor to record these lectures, put them up on Canvas, talk to you guys about them, monitor your online learning to make sure that you are learning all the things about socialization that you're supposed to. I know I have played this for you guys, but literally the marshmallow test is one of my favorite things. I think it's the most adorable test that we've ever done with children. And I also really, really love it because it shows delaying your gratification and using some of your executive functioning skills, which are like brain development skills, in order to regulate what your emotions about something and your feelings about something in order to get a reward at the end. So I am going to play this again because I think we should probably just watch this every day of our lives because it's that adorable.
Executive function skills really all work in concert. So working memory, correct control, cognitive flexibility can be really difficult to disentangle. The natural course of executive function development is to improve gradually across the particularly early preschool years, and to peak until one's improved to mid-20s. We know that executive function two periods of development in preschool as well as pre-adolescence. The marshmallow test is a measure of delay of gratification. The nature of the experiment is to give children a choice between a smaller reward now and a larger reward later. So in the classic paradigm, children would be offered something like one marshmallow now, or if they wait until the experimenter comes back, they could have 2 marshmallows.
All right, so they understood the rules, but some of the children ate the marshmallow and some did not. And we see that that has a lot to do with age as well. So the older a child is, the more that they're going to have executive functioning, they're going to have self-regulatory behaviors. We're also looking at individual differences within that as well, because there are certain people that kind of develop those skills earlier or have stronger self-regulatory behaviors as well. We're also looking at culture as well in order to see if that is important. When we're looking at different types of people is that idea of culture as well. Certain cultures want more self-regulation or emotional self-regulation than others. So we do know that children need to be a certain age, typically around 2, they can start to understand this, but it's definitely a process throughout childhood because they need to have that brain development and that cognitive thinking maturity to understand that they're separate people. And that they can control their own actions. That is really kind of happening about 7 and 8 years old. So we see it starting to kind of happen around 2, but then at around 7 is when they really get that brain development to be able to make those leaps. So that's all about that kind of perception taking and egocentrism that we've talked about before. They also have to have language development because they need to be able to process and understand and hear the rules like in the marshmallow test in order to understand what's going on. And they need to be able to have memory and be able to store and remember rules and what happens if there's a consequence or not, or if people praise me, if I have self-regulation or not as well. So it's definitely something that is happening throughout our own lifespan, but for young children, it's really, really a big process, and some children just don't have the ability yet. An example would be that they need to kind of understand the future as well. So if I don't tease my brother, mommy said that she would take me skating. So knowing that there's a reward or there's a consequence, I shouldn't do something, I need to remember what the rule is. So that's fairly complex. Within our microsystem as well, self-regulatory ability depends on who you are as a person, how big your brain is, if your brain has been injured, what kind of mental health issues you have as well. It also has to do with your temperament, flexible, feisty, or slow to warm up. That's also going to play in self-regulation. Feisty children have a little bit harder with their big emotions. Once again, I'm feisty, so I know how that is. And then factors such as your parents, how they're parenting you, what kind of teaching you are receiving. Is it looking at social and emotional development? What your peers think and reward for social and emotional and self-regulation? What kind of media you watch, and also the community and if they reward self-regulation as well. A big part of emotional regulation is to control your anger and your frustration and use it appropriately and not go around slapping people and hitting people. And also, we typically in most cultures want you to be empathetic. We want you to care about other people. So we kind of translate this into 2 types of behavior, antisocial and pro-social development. So antisocial, you've probably heard that word before, any behavior that harms other people. So being very aggressive, either in your words or in your actions, violence, hitting and hurting people, and then crime, stealing, hurting, assault, gang-related behaviors as well. And then we have pro-social behaviors. So this is things that benefit other people, such as sharing. We would want other young children to share. Cooperation is really important, and then altruism. And once again, we're going to get into that because you're going to look at that in an observation online this week. So aggression could be attacks, fights, quarrels, anything like that. A lot of times it's instrumental. So a child is very instrumental. They want an object. They want that toy. They want to be first in line. They want more space on the circle for the circle in order to see the teacher read a book. And so that children are very instrumental. I want that. I want this. I need that. And then there is hostile, which is to harm another person. And children typically aren't that hostile. It's more when they get older as well. Maybe middle school, we might see some kind of hostile aggression. But then altruism, this is right here. Sorry, let me go back. This right here is what we want. Altruism, and you are going to want to remember altruism because you're going to use this for your online activity this week. So altruism encompasses voluntary actions that are intended to help or benefit another person or a group of people without the actor's anticipation of external rewards. Such actions often entail some cost, self-sacrifice, or risk on the part of the person. So if you go and you volunteer at a senior citizen's home every Saturday and you read books to them and you braid their hair and you put nail polish on and you bring them treats that you've made, that's probably altruism. If your grandma lived at that same house and you were just helping her and her friends, that would be not so much altruism because you are getting some kind of external reward. You're taking care of your grandma and her friends. So while you're there hanging out with that grandma, you're also going to help care for her friends. That's fantastic. That's empathetic. You should still get praise from people for doing that, but you are still getting some kind of reward and that grandma is being taken care of. So there's, if grandma didn't live there and it was just a bunch of random old people that you don't know, then that is altruism. Your cost, you're making treats for them, you're taking time out of your busy schedule. So that could be an example of altruism. So I volunteer at my daughter's elementary school every week. That's not altruism. That's nice, it's caring, I like that I do it, but I'm wanting to make education at that school better for all the children, but my children are also going to directly benefit because they go to that school. So it is not self-sacrificing, I'm getting something out of it. I'm making my school better for my children and the other people in my community. So this is a video about altruism.
Experiment was Turkish American social psychologist specifically sharing from the test something called realistic conflict theory. He hypothesized that conflict happens when you combine negative prejudices with competition for resources and ways of understanding well-known right. So the next couple of days, the rappers gave us organic inputs and a series of games. need sets of equipment, while isolation and competition make enemies of the strangers, shared goals of cooperation bring enemies. So the past 39 minutes, we've learned a lot about ourselves, our emotions and our personalities, how our minds can get sick, how we can help them get well again, why we can do vicious things and then turn around and laugh at heroes. So maybe it's good to wrap up this first round with a couple closing conclusions that some consider the very definition of human nature: aggression and altruism, conflict and cooperation. When I think of it as a psychology of war and peace, simply, we can all learn a whole bunch of fun. In psychology, aggression is defined as behavior in the attempt to destroy someone or something or even yourself. They will progress, as psychologists say, in all kinds of ways, verbally, emotionally, physically, and for lots of different reasons. Out of anger, certain thoughts, or response to fear. That's what explains people why someone might get depressed. Why is it aggression? Like all other behaviors we'll talk about, it seems to emerge from that familiar foundational biological factors, genetic, neurological, influences, and our environment experience. In terms of genetic influences, the studies of twins, and yes, rational psychology might be called practical studies of twins, show that if one identical twin has a violent temper, often the other one does too. But fraternal twins are much less likely to be so similar. Neurologically speaking, no single area of the brain controls aggression, but certain areas like the limbic system develop facility. Research on violence and brutality has also found that aggression and diminished activity in the frontal lobes, which play a vital role in impulse control. And finally, our aggressiveness can be influenced by our own biochemistry. Hormones like testosterone and neurotransmitters, pheromones, and even animal models of aggression. It's a little trickier in humans. It's a lot trickier in humans, but it's highly likely that our hormones are physically like to show aggression. Obviously, aggression is about biology. Psychological and emotional factors also factor into the plan and situation. That's as a frustration, aggression, hypothesis. A simple idea.
So that was the Robbers Cave experiment, which is all about aggression and altruism, or aggression and working together. So in your assignment this week, you are going to be watching some commercials, and you're going to see if there's any aggression or any altruism. So you have two different kind of working definitions for that, and you're going to see if there's any in any of those commercials. These are a bunch of commercials that were for the most popular children's toys for 2017 and 2018. So in our media, in our commercials, we are giving messages to children. Are any of them aggressive, or any of them prioritizing altruism and empathy? Some of the reasons that you might be aggressive, as this last video is kind of talking about, are biological. So once again, kind of twin studies. Does it come out of your hereditary background and your genetics? Social cognitive as well, and social cultural. So looking at your culture, looking at how you were raised, and cognitive as well is looking at your brain and your brain development, and then ecological is Rothenbrenner, which you've been learning. So what is your microsystem and all the systems around you telling you to be aggressive or to not be aggressive? We do know that there are some biological reasons. So impulse control, frustration, activity level, all of that can be found in those brain studies that video was just kind of showing us. So the differences between murderers or people who are very aggressive and then kind of citizens that have never been to jail, there are differences in what our brains look like. And then we also see that adopted people, some individuals, so even if they were adopted, into kind of regular typical families, if they're more likely to exhibit criminal behavior if their biological parent was a criminal, regardless of the environment in the adopted family. So this is from the 80s. We're still studying it a little bit more, but there might be some kind of brain and genetic reasons that people are a little bit more aggressive. And we think it might also be hormones like testosterone as well. So he was talking about convicted murderers and looking at activities in parts of their brain. And so our temporal lobe, which is right here, the temporal lobe might contribute to being violent as well. And then some people who drink become more aggressive. Mean drunks, angry drunks, if you've ever heard those kind of terms. Not everybody who drinks alcohol is going to be aggressive, but some people who drink even a very small amount might become more aggressive too. Then there's social cognitive, which is Bandura right here. And he kind of was looking at modeling. So are we reinforcing aggressive behavior with rewards? Or are we ignoring it or punishing it so that aggressive behaviors might cease? So children cannot hit their mothers when their mothers take away their toy because of severe socialization consequences. However, children can hit their peers when peers take away a toy without experiencing such consequences. So if you took a toy away from your mom or your grandma, you're going to get spanked, slapped, hit, yelled at. Everybody's going to be really upset with you if you physically hurt an older member of your family. However, a 3-year-old could probably go to school and hit somebody in order to get a toy, and they might get a consequence, but not such a severe consequence. So we've reinforced or not reinforced that behavior, and that's something Bandura was very popular for. This is his Bobo doll toy test. So this is a teacher, and she's hitting this Bobo doll, which is one of those dolls that you hit and it can kind of fall over. Then we saw a little boy who had seen his teacher doing this. He hit the doll a lot. He actually got a mallet and a gun, and he just went even above and beyond what that teacher had done. So we see that quite often. Bandura's work is not always true. Just because you see somebody being aggressive doesn't mean that you're going to be aggressive, but it can kind of model that behavior. So if you saw somebody in all of your systems, your peers, your friends, your teachers, in the media, all you're seeing is violent messages, and your parents are violent, you might think that violence is normal, typical as well. So that kind of aggressive behavior it can be part of your family if your parents are very aggressive, if their interactions with other people are very aggressive, if your school kind of allows aggressive behavior, they don't break up fights, they allow fights, or maybe there's no punishment. If your peer group models a lot of aggressive behaviors, that's the norm, that's how you solve all of your issues is through violence and aggression. And if your media, if you're having it modeled in the media messages and commercials and TV shows, aggression and violence, then that might be something that you see. And then if your community is full of, socioeconomic stressors like poverty, it's a very stressful community because there's not a lot of jobs, people are struggling. If you have to fight for support systems, you've seen probably pictures of people after hurricanes fighting for, rice or flour or things like that because there's not a lot. So all of that can be part of our ecological system. All right, that is it for today. I will see you guys online where you are going to be doing online work about aggression and altruism, looking at commercials. All right, I'll see you guys online.